The fight world is filled with legends, but few names command as much weight as Ronda Rousey. To this day, one question continues to echo around arenas, sports bars, and online forums across the globe. Will Ronda Rousey ever return to the UFC Octagon? She is more than just a fighter. She is a pioneer who changed the course of women's mixed martial arts forever. Her story is one of triumph, heartbreak, and legacy. Yet, despite all she has achieved, the possibility of a comeback still lingers in the minds of millions. And that very question is what makes her story so powerful. When Ronda first burst onto the scene, women's MMA wasn't taken seriously. In fact, UFC President Dana White once declared that women would never fight in the UFC. But Ronda Rousey proved him wrong. Her dominance in Strikeforce forced the UFC to open its doors to female fighters, and she was crowned the first ever UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion in 2012. What followed was nothing short of electrifying. Rousey was unlike anything fans had ever seen. Years of Olympic-level judo translated into the cage with stunning throws and devastating submissions. Her trademark armbar became legendary. Fight after fight, opponent after opponent, the result was always the same. They tapped, sometimes in seconds. She didn't just win, she finished fights so quickly that fans hardly had time to blink. With her raw talent and ferocious confidence, Ronda Rousey transformed from fighter to superstar. The UFC had a new face, and for the first time in history, that face belonged to a woman. Her rise was meteoric. Pay-per-view numbers skyrocketed whenever she fought. Crowds filled arenas from Los Angeles to Rio de Janeiro. She headlined major cards, captured headlines in global media, and crossed into Hollywood with movie roles. Ronda Rousey was no longer just an athlete. She was a cultural icon. Young girls around the world looked up to her as a role model, and her very presence in the sport legitimized women's MMA on the biggest stage. At her peak, she wasn't just the most dominant female fighter. She was one of the biggest stars in all of combat sports. But combat sports are cruel. No matter how dominant, no matter how legendary, no fighter is untouchable. On November 15th, 2015, at UFC 193 in Melbourne, Australia, the unthinkable happened. Ronda Rousey, the unstoppable force, met Holly Holm, a skilled striker with precise boxing and devastating kicks. What was supposed to be another quick victory turned into disaster. Holm's technique exposed Rousey's weaknesses. And then, in the second round, Holm landed a thunderous head kick that silenced the world. The crowd of over 50,000 erupted, but for Rousey and her millions of fans, time seemed to stop. For the first time, the seemingly unbeatable champion lay defeated on the canvas. That night, the myth of invincibility was shattered. The loss changed everything. After nearly a year away, Ronda attempted a comeback at UFC 207 in December 2016 against Amanda Nunes. The fight was billed as her redemption. Fans believed she would rise again, that the old Ronda would return. But reality was harsh. In just 48 seconds, Nunes dismantled Rousey with brutal punches that forced the referee to step in. In less than a minute, Ronda's second chance was gone. Her eyes told the story of heartbreak, and once again, the world watched as the rowdy era came to a devastating close. That night, she walked away from the UFC. After leaving the Octagon, Ronda Rousey began a new chapter. She became a star in WWE, where her athleticism and presence made her one of the biggest draws in professional wrestling. She embraced motherhood, explored Hollywood opportunities, and built a successful life away from fighting. But no matter where she went, one question never left her. Will she come back? For fans, her story felt unfinished. Her dominance had ended too suddenly, too painfully. The aura she built was unmatched, and the hunger for a comeback never died. Over the years, whispers and rumors have kept the speculation alive. Clips of Ronda training have surfaced online, sparking excitement. In interviews, she has occasionally spoken about rediscovering her love for MMA. Dana White has only fueled the debate by openly saying that Rousey will always have a place in the UFC if she chooses to return. In 2023, speculation even tied her name to UFC 300, one of the biggest cards in history. Social media buzzed with theories. Could Ronda Rousey walk out one more time under the bright lights? The idea was intoxicating, but reality is more complicated. Ronda herself has admitted to facing neurological issues, a serious concern in a sport as punishing as MMA. She has even said publicly that she is not neurologically fit to compete at the highest level anymore. These revelations cast doubt on whether a comeback is even possible, let alone realistic. Yet, despite all these statements, the hunger for her return remains strong. Because in combat sports, legends rarely fade quietly. If Ronda did return, the Octagon she once ruled would look very different today. The women's bantamweight division has evolved with fighters like Juliana Pena, Raquel Pennington, and Irene Aldana. Amanda Nunes, the fighter who once destroyed her comeback attempt, has retired, though fans still dream of a rematch should she ever return. The sport itself has moved forward. Fighters are now more complete, sharper, and more dangerous than ever before. For Ronda, a comeback would not be a simple return. It would be a collision with a new generation hungry to make their mark. Still, the power of legacy cannot be ignored. Many argue that Ronda doesn't need to fight again. Her place in history is already secure. She will forever be remembered as the pioneer who opened the doors for women in the UFC, the champion who inspired millions, the athlete who turned skeptics into believers. But legacy has a strange way of pulling champions back. Muhammad Ali returned. George St. Pierre returned. Even Mike Tyson returned. For legends, the itch to fight again, to write one final chapter, never truly goes away. Could Ronda Rousey feel that same pull? For fans, the dream is crystal clear. Picture the scene. Las Vegas, T-Mobile Arena, a sold-out crowd buzzing with anticipation. The lights dim, the walkout music hits, and rowdy Ronda Rousey emerges once again. Whether she wins or loses, the impact of that moment alone would shake the sport to its core. Her return would not just be another fight, it would be a cultural event. A night etched into history and perhaps the most watched comeback in UFC history. And yet, the answer remains a mystery. Will Ronda Rousey ever return to the UFC? Only she knows the truth. She has denied it, admitted her health concerns, and walked away from the Octagon years ago. But fighters are unpredictable. They retire, they promise never to return, and then one day the fire inside them pulls them back. The UFC has kept the door open. Dana White is waiting. The fans are waiting. And history has shown us that in combat sports, never say never. Ronda Rousey is more than just another fighter. She is a symbol of change, a trailblazer whose name is forever tied to the rise of women's MMA. Whether she ever competes again or not, her shadow still hangs over the Octagon. Until she finally gives the world a definitive answer, the question will remain alive. Is the comeback of the century still possible? She was the first. She was the fiercest. And maybe, just maybe, she's not finished yet.